He said, well, we just have to get the COVID funding bill done. Well, that is something else that right now is not going to happen because Congress just left for 2 weeks. Speaker Pelosi, Leader Schumer, they let the Congress leave for 2 weeks.
There is Peter Doocy there telling the Fox News audience that the reason why this latest COVID relief bill worth around $10 billion did not pass and is not going to pass currently is because Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer let Congress leave. I mean, they took off the handcuffs and released them because Congress stays there until Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi release them. The actual reason that this didn't happen is far more believable and a lot more common, and actually isn't that far off that he could say this. Let's get to that in a second. So why did it actually fail, and why was Peter Doocy lying? Republicans in the Senate on Tuesday blocked a measure that would provide an additional $10 billion in COVID-19 relief for moving forward, declining to throw their support behind the bipartisan deal unless Democratic leaders allowed a vote on an immigration-related amendment. The failed vote to begin debate on the $10 billion COVID relief package came one day after Republicans and Democrats announced that they had reached agreement on the supplemental funding for therapeutics, research, and vaccines. So Peter Doocy couldn't have missed this because it's pretty direct and easy news to see, especially since you're a White House correspondent, you'd think you would know what's going on. Also, since he's at these events where Jen Psaki speaks all the time and he gets into a back and forth there, you think you might have heard her say these types of things like this. Following the failed vote on Tuesday, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki called the blockade by Senate Republicans disappointing and warned that there are consequences for Congress failing to approve the additional funding. So the Republicans did block this, and they want to keep this one particular amendment in that would turn immigrants away. So GOP senators wanted this vote on this amendment that would prevent Mr. Biden from winding down a Trump-era border restriction known as Title 42 that authorized the US border officials to swiftly expel migrants in order to stop the spread of a contagious disease. A contagious disease that they didn't think was real, but they could use it to make sure you quickly and swiftly expel all migrants. Because you could say, I'm worried about it, which maybe you could be, but they wanted to keep this, and it was gonna be attached to this COVID-19 relief bill now, and that was the holdup. In fact, in case Peter Doocy missed this, Mitch McConnell, who was the head of Republicans in the Senate, he also said this blatantly and openly. Watch.
On the COVID package, which has been negotiated at a $10 billion level, fully paid for, it will require, I think, several amendments in order to get across the floor. So if the majority leader tries to move forward, we'll have to have a discussion about a reasonable amendment process.
Is there going to be an amendment on Title 42 in order to get this COVID bill across the finish line?
Yeah, I think there'll have to be an amendment on Title 42 in order to move the bill.
David, you've done some reporting, maybe a little bit here and there in your life. Whenever you hear top political figures talking about what they're gonna do and what they're not gonna do, and then seeing the entirety of Congress, one particular party vote against something, it's kind of hard to miss that that's how it happened and not that just, Pelosi and Schumer let them go.
This one is puzzling to me because there may be a legitimate argument for the conservatives, for the Peter Doocy's of the world to say, look, Republicans are blocking this and here are some legitimate reasons why, and then you can have that debate. But to just go ahead and say, no, the reason that this isn't passed isn't because Republicans are blocking, but because Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer have taken Congress out on vacation for 2 weeks. I mean, that is beyond silly. That's beyond stupid and idiotic. And it gets to a larger point, I think, about Fox News. A lot of people like to point to Peter Doocy and some of their correspondents as, oh, this is proof that Fox News has its news gathering reporting side and then it's got its opinion side, and they're not really sort of mixed, and maybe the opinion side certainly is biased and poisonous, but look at the news side, they're legitimate journalists. No, they're not. Peter Doocy may sound in his sort of delivery and his effect as, oh, he's a legitimate journalist, but the fact that he does this kind of idiotic thing, which is so easily disproven, easily proven that in fact, no, the reason this bill is being blocked is because of Republicans, regardless of whether you agree or disagree. That's the reason this bill isn't going anywhere. It has nothing to do with vacation. And the fact that Peter Doocy could push this narrative tells you all you need to know about Fox News' so-called non-biased news gathering, which is in fact very biased and very partisan.
And this, honestly, if someone on a network that I'm working for says it, and I know the difference, maybe if I don't know the information, I won't push back, but if I'm like, I heard that they blocked a vote though, and I probably agreed with the reasons why they blocked it, as you pointed out. It's not worth, it's not like it's something that's not worth reporting. You can still push your conservative narrative and say they blocked it for these reasons because, those filthy immigrants that we all hate, right? You can still say that because that's the reason, unless you're not proud of that stance.
Or unless you're just lazy. And the fact of the matter is, look, I mean, if you're a White House correspondent, you have to be well-versed in a lot of different issues. You have to be something of a generalist, but the fact of the matter is this was very lazy reporting by Peter Doocy on an issue that was not some sort of extreme fringe issue that he had never heard about. It makes me think somebody was telling him, hey, your talking point today is make sure you blame the Democrats for taking them out on vacation. Don't blame Republicans. And he decided, okay, I'll take one for the team on this case.